All right, man. So we up and rolling. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All right, cool. All right, man. So yeah, man. Let's get into this thing, man. The Revolt joint, right?
That's right.
And so, I mean, good. Yeah, yeah. It was all right. It was all right. You know what I mean? It's the same old conversation. You know what I'm saying? Where I mean, you get some good points, but you don't walk away with an agreement on with that 10-point plan. Like, yo, we having a town hall meeting and we about to get on this 10-point plan, right?
Right.
So, to me, of course, Killer Mike crushes it. Candace crushes it. The emotional aspect of the crowd, as typical, we expect that, you know what I'm saying? And so, man, the notes I got, man, I'm gonna pick with my nigga Tip on this one. You know what I'm saying? Um, I got some bones to pick with my man Tip, man, and that's because he talking about in one quote, motherfuckers suppressing us. So, in one conversation, it's motherfuckers is suppressing us or oppressing us. But then later in the conversation, it's blacks are progressing and moving forward. I'm a millionaire.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Right?
And he's the first one to invest in any motherfucking opportunities.
I got that as a note. That's right.
Right.
And invested in opportunity zones, but at the same time, you're gonna say that this is non-black and only corporations gonna come in, but you've been doing it.
That's right.
And so we can't have it both ways, man. And it doesn't mean that racism don't exist, but it's clear if it exists, and I know we're gonna say it does, which is fine, because I'm of the mindset that pockets of racism exist, but I'm just also on the mindset that it don't exist at the scale that stops black people from progressing, like Tip said.
That's right.
It exists, but this ain't Jim Crow. This ain't that era. It's not stopping you from progressing. It's not stopping anyone from making progress. So is it some things that could be changed, such as, it's harder for you to get a job if you're a convicted felon? I'm sure it is. Absolutely 100% correct. Yes, without a shadow of a doubt, right?
Right.
But, on one hand, we got suppression. One hand, we making progress. And then I even heard Candace, where I have to disagree with. She's like, don't be fooled, we're not making progress. Because when Tip said we making progress, she goes on to say we ain't making progress.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wait a minute. I know whether it be, I'm just going to look at, what can we judge it by? Are we looking at black unemployment rates? Because that damn sure has been getting better ever since they started recording it in the Nixon Ford administration, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Of course, we always say Ronald Reagan has the worst black unemployment rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obama comes in, the recession hits, and he kind of goes back to that era and whatnot, black unemployment rate. But like I always said, it never went past 21% with Reagan. So out of 100 people, 20 don't have a job. Out of 10 people, 2 ain't got a job. Right. And then the average median income earned for black families is absolutely going up. Of course, we're going to get a decrease in some years, like the stock market and whatnot. You may saw a decrease in income with Obama compared to the previous administration before him, but that's not to take nothing away from him. It's just, we just go up and down, but the overall trend is like the Dow Jones. The overall trend since gold been tracked is everything is going up and everything is progressing. Right. So I'm going to have to agree with Tip on he's making progress. Blacks are progressing and we're moving forward. Okay. And so that was that. But I strongly disagree with the, ASAP Rocky thing. One of the sisters threw something out there with ASAP Rocky, then it's a publicity stunt. And I called that shit. I can go back to Candace Owens' timeline about this ASAP Rocky shit, and I said it, that somebody is going to say it is a publicity stunt. But here's the kicker. Was it not rappers and entertainers themselves that was calling on Kanye West to make a phone call, Ju?
Snoop Dogg.
Who? Snoop? Uncle Snoopy? Uncle Snoopy did it?
Uncle Snoopy. That's right.
You made a call. A hip-hop community, let's just keep it real. There was a cry for ASAP Rocky, and to see a Kanye, Kim, you getting people free. Once you holler at Trump and see if this worked. And I swear to God, honestly, I just want to say it. I wouldn't have did it if I was Trump. Oh, that's going to burn some motherfuckers up. But I'm going to tell you why. Because people like T.I., and I love Tip, but Tip, your Libra scales are not being balanced with logic.
That's right.
I see some emotional sway coming into the conversation here. And it's like you got a bias, such as that we're being oppressed, but I'm making progress. We making progress. That they don't mix. You understand what I'm saying? Right. And I can take a little plea, maybe you saying again, well, there is racism, but we're not being oppressed as a whole that stops us from making progression. We got to be clear on that. Okay.
And the issue, DeBeer, is just want to add why you went on this, so I won't forget. Sometimes when people are making arguments, they tend to feel like they have to go to the furthest extreme of the argument in order for their points to remain valid. And so, you know, when Tip says these type of things on the Revolt Summit and some of the other people there, it's almost as like they think that they're talking, or they think that they're talking to a crowd of people who are unintelligible and not able to look at things on a scale. So you feel like you have to, in order to get people to sway to your side of the narrative, that you have to make extreme accusations,
right?
In order to get people to feel what you're saying, so that you can at least get them to look into it. Right. And that can be dangerous because when you get behind closed doors with people of higher caliber logic and reason, some more detail is going to have to be added in there where we actually look at it point for point and say, okay, well, what's the math here? You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely, man. You can't say that Trump intervening on the behalf of ASAP Rocky is publicity when it is a fact. I mean, this is a fact that the hip hop community literally made a request through Kanye West to make that request to Donald Trump.
This is a fact.
So with that right there, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You see, one thing we're going to have to understand is, I'll always say it, that process, like if you wrong, admit you wrong, you cool. That's the justice scales. But again, man, it's just coming off like there's a bias that's there. And we got to understand the process of jury selection, the process of becoming the judge, is you got to be very, very thorough, very honest, and deal with the facts of the matter and not take a side. But here's the key. We can't say you can't take a side, because clearly, like Tip said, with the young man, he said the young man don't have no agenda. Tip said, no, I got an agenda, and my agenda is to see my people treated better and things of that nature, which is dope, hella dope. All right. Now, something else was interesting because Jay Morrison weighed in and he had talked about, and then, you know, it was like nationality, right? Which, you know, I don't know if you saw that part when Jay was coming out, right? You got nationality. Maybe we need to have a national Black vote day, and we decide who we are in America. Are we Moors? Are we Africans? Are we African Americans? Because that has and Tip said he learned this, that this has no, I should have wrote that down. I don't want to say status at law because we heard that through the Moorish community for years, right?
Right.
Now, it's not that that doesn't have any truth to it, but what I really want to say is I don't necessarily see, it just seems like the status at law only comes up when you're the defendant. Meaning, I cannot see how the term African American, Black, stops, Tip, Killer Mike, anybody in society, Puff, Michael Jackson, anybody from being great and producing anything we desire economically, politically. I don't see where we're being deprived by having the term African American or Black. I understand. I get it. We studied that, been through that school. I get it. And I'm not saying that because it is something that we showed on one of those forms that they got, right? One of them government forms that specifically,
deals with people of origin and
people
race.
of origin, right, and race, and Black is got this little funny context to it.
That's right.
Totally understand. But I'm missing how the, for lack of a better word, the label of who we are is affecting and preventing us from expanding and building and investing in these opportunity zones that we've been doing for eons.
And also, not to say that this is the only time that it comes up, the nationality piece, but a lot of times that is uttered, nationality is the key, when unjust situations happen to Black people, right? Mike Brown, Freddie Gray, whoever we decide to talk about. They say, well, that's used as a talking point in a lot of conscious circles. The nationality thing comes up, right? But that's not stopping the police from smoking you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's because that's a physical act that's taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because before they shot Mike, they didn't even know his name was Mike. They didn't even know what his name was. Before they dragged Freddie, they didn't even know his name was Freddie. So if I can't even identify you by your name, what makes you think that because you're calling yourself something else that's going to stop me from doing something of that nature?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So not in those instances, that's not the solution to the problem. Not for those type of ordeals.
Right.
Right? That's something that's going to have to take place where I always say this, Noble, you got a couple options. Either we're going to fight by force.
Tip mentioned force.
You mentioned force. We're going to fight by force.
Or
we're going to use other means of swaying and
economic leverage.
And finding leverage through financial means and pulling rank, knowing people in places, etc. In order to get different laws to pass and legislation to pass, in order for real consequences to be had when those type of acts happen. Right. And I said it today earlier. We're not doing it by force.
No. That's not even a topic of conversation.
That's why Tip mentioned it and he never went into.
That's right. It is suicide.
That's right. So, so to your point, even if we all say we are whatever nationality we decide, we're still living on a physical landmass,
right? Where
physical people don't care if you're African American, Black, Negroed,
more, no matter,
Native American. Right. That doesn't change that psychology of the people who are implementing the tragedy.
Right. Confederates.
That's right.
A Confederate, and let's just call it for what it is, okay? I always say it. I love Killer Mike because he always identify white people that's on his side and understand him as John Brown. I say salute to John Brown, his hometown. He's representing the O. And what you're really saying, because John Brown's a Jayhawker. A Jayhawker is someone who went out west to Kansas before the Civil War, 1854, and they're fighting and stopping slavery. White boys who wanted slavery, called border ruffians, they're stopping them from expanding slavery into the Western territories. And there's some white boys like Colonel James Montgomery, who rode with Harriet T. John Brown. They forming their own regiments and companies and giving men guns, and they busting and killing white people who want slaves. I mean, this is really a civil war before the Civil War, also known as Bleeding Kansas, right? So when Killer Mike always gives a shout out to the John Browns, I know that what you're saying is you don't got no problem with a white person that is a Union soldier abolitionist, is what you're saying at the core. Right. When you're dealing with this black and white issue, you're going to have to deal with the Civil War. You're going to have to deal with my man Abe, man. You ain't getting around it, damn it. It ain't happening. I can't hear you. We free, nigga. We free. Right. Okay? Like Killer Mike said, we are free. What you going to do? Right? And we are. And so there's nobody. We can't be rich and progressing and be suppressed as a people at the same time. No. That's just not what it is, man. We're very clear. Something happened and it was called slavery. Something happened, it was called Jim Crow. And Killer Mike nailed that shit where he said, what he say, Candace, you weren't quite ready for that question. Tip asked her, right. When was America great? I'll tell you when America was a great. First 7 years after slavery. That's right. So we want to say 1865 is slavery. And the Civil War is over April 9th. Okay, April 20, 1865, generally surrendered. Appomattox, Virginia. April 26th, Joe Johnston surrendered to my ward General William T. Sherman in the Carolinas. So the Confederacy Army is done in April of 65. Okay, now, so if you're saying 7 years, that takes us to what? 72?
Yeah.
All right. So now we in Grant's era. Okay. The Union general who won the freaking Civil War is now the president, and he gonna get 2 terms. Okay. President Grant. Now, this is known after the Civil War is known as the Reconstruction era. Okay. Now, this is where the focus needs to be, right here in this pocket. Killer Mike is on the shit. He knows. He knows. Because he said he's proud to be an American.
Right.
Right? See, you're not gonna get all black folks to agree to. You think black folks gonna, I'm more, I'm whatever. It ain't happening. That's gonna be too much confusion because you're gonna have some people that just want to stay where they at. And when you look at the general consensus of what's happening, black people just want. I'm gonna tell you what we want. We want the United States government to make an action through law, which is policy, and perhaps a financial gesture of reparations as well to compensate that, to show that, listen, that era of what happened was extremely fucked up, and we fucked up in that process as well. And this is what we're going to do to fix that wrong. Because niggas is free to go to Africa, but you don't. Only Akon does, okay? Niggas don't take a mass exodus, Garvey, and get the fuck up out of here. Nope, you don't do it. You don't do it. You stay here and you say, my ancestors built this. Whatever the reason may be, you stay here because you feel loyal to the soil. Whether it be through your ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears, man. It's something about this place, the land of milk and honey. You see people winning. You getting it yourself, like you loyal to the soil. And it's without a shadow of a doubt progression, right? So the issue is, right in that Reconstruction era, Like me and Ju, we had these conversations, and you know, I'm a Civil War freaking enthusiast. I love this shit. Like I understand battles, war generals. That's because that's where it's at right there. I keep telling y'all, excuse my French, but fuck all that Sun Tzu art of war shit. Study the Civil War, okay? And so the kicker is that pocket, this shit was so thick. In order for Abraham Lincoln to win a second election, he had to get a Southern white slave holding vice president called Andrew Johnson to come in, do a bipartisan ticket to win over the vote. Now, this is strategic art of war shit because you were a slave and then the Civil War started, okay? Which, by the way, I'm not saying that Abraham Lincoln in the North launched it to free you. South Carolina got so pissed at the advent of Abraham Lincoln winning the election, okay, that before he took office in February the 15th of 61, okay, fucking December, South Carolina was out. December of the previous year, 1860. You win the election in November, you ain't gonna get sworn in until February. That next month, December, they say we the fuck up out of here. We gone. Because we know the rhetoric that he's been talking in these debates, these 1858 debates with Senator who Lincoln rightfully called Judge, okay, Judge Douglas, okay, never called him Senator because he was playing on his mental morale when he kept doing that. Like, you a judge, nigga, you know better. I'm not calling you Senator. You a judge, you know better, right? And so clearly playing on the man's intellect, and it worked. So it's so thick that you have to bring in this vice president who has slaves in Tennessee. I mean, this is amazing to look at the art of war strategy that had to take place. So then April 9th come, General Lee surrenders, and then April 14th come, Lincoln gets a bullet to the back of the dome. He's dead. Now the slave holding president, Andrew Johnson, is in power. So my war general, William T. Sherman, all you niggas always talking about 40 acres in the mule, 40 acres in the mule, right? Right. First of all, the mule was never mentioned in the order, but it's cool. That comes from Special Field Order number 15, signed by General William T. Sherman. That was never a law. It was a military mandate in the time of war. It was retracted and canceled when Andrew Johnson came in.
That's right.
So now white boys, Confederates, say, what you doing, nigga? This is my granddaddy house. This is our shit. So now they want to come and start taking the shit. And then Andrew Johnson has a totally different reconstruction plan, how the country gonna come together after black folks are free after the Civil War. So he's so in favor of the white boys and doing shit that's against the radical Republicans who are 100% advocates of black folks, Thaddeus Stevens and them, all right? These people, Charles Sumner, who, by the way, got beat with a cane.
What about Black Dave? What about Black Dave?
Black Dave is a war general in the Union Army, but nevertheless, he with it because Black Dave was given weapons. Black Dave issued an Emancipation Proclamation before Abraham Lincoln did, and Abraham Lincoln struck it down as a strategy in the art of war to not make the war about slaves because he didn't want the border states to turn on them and the Confederates to get more power. We don't have to make it about slavery and create more enemies. These motherfuckers fired the first shot. We about to bust their ass. Don't mention slaves right now. Not right now. Wait till we win some battles and we can see the victory. Then we'll start talking about the slave shit. Abe was slick, man. Fucking genius. All right. So Andrew Johnson is in the Reconstruction plan of the radical Republicans and even Lincoln. And Lincoln wasn't a radical Republican. He was more, he came up with what's called a 10% plan. And in a nutshell, Andrew Johnson rolls this shit back and we get a setback. But then Grant comes in, he gets 2 terms. And then what we do is we have 5 military zones down south to make sure that black folks will be left alone, the Freedmen's Bureau, things of that nature, and black folks will be, okay. It is at the advent of 1877 is where this shit took a turn. Right here. Very critical. Okay. This is known as the 1877 Compromise. All right. There's a Democrat down south, Tilden, I think his name is, and Rutherford B. Hayes from Ohio. All right. Is running for presidency, and Hayes wins by 1 electoral vote. This creates havoc. Y'all cheating at the polls? No, y'all cheating at the polls. This was mayhem. So they came up with a compromise and said, listen, the Republicans, the ones who are definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, they form with one political ideology to abolish slavery, and they won. Now, I ain't telling you to be a Republican, but goddamn it, y'all gonna have to put some respect on Abe Lincoln's name. That's just, I mean, nigga, he in the grave because of what he did. And many Union soldiers and John Brown is dead trying to get niggas free.
Man, okay? John Brown went up in there on a suicide list.
He knew he was gonna die doing that.
With his sons.
Yeah. Like, man, that's the whole nother, like, wanted to see black folks free so bad. Come on, sons. We're going into this goddamn, we're going to an army barracks, and we're going to go get some weapons and go to war against them, like suicide, right? And so Rutherford B. Hayes said, hey, man, I tell you what, let us win, the Republicans, and we'll withdraw the federal troops from down south. And they said, deal. It's on. Now look at this. Now think about this. Well, what was the alternative? The Democrats, who are the slave-holding boys, get back in the Oval Office and come back into Congress. Because you got to understand something. The 13th, 14th Amendment, them type of deals, bro, the Southern states wasn't even in Congress when this shit was being drafted.
This is
clever shit. That's because right. They can block the shit. They not even in. And now in order for them to be considered back into the Union, they have to accept these new rules that niggas are free. There are no more slaves. They are citizens, 14th Amendment. And then Grant pushed the 15th Amendment. You got the right to vote.
That's right.
So these Southern states are not even in Washington to vote against this shit. And they're forced to accept it in order to be a member state of the United States. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, what would happen within that critical era if the Democrat slaveholding boys get in power? You niggas is going back in chains.
And I mean fast.
Fast. You going back to the plantation. Like, you gotta understand that could have been a possibility. You could have got put back in shackles and went back to the plantation. So to avoid another civil war, they said, Rutherford B. Hayes and them, I tell you what, we'll withdraw federal troops from down south and y'all just start handling y'all business. Y'all going about y'all business, man. All right, deal. Mind you, black folks got the right to vote in 1870 under the Grant administration. Go 95 years later, 1965 is the Civil Rights Act. You get the right to vote. So the United States of America, right? That's right. You've been had the right for 95 years. The United States of America is not clean, but God damn it, like Killer Mike got to say, I'm proud to be a fucking American. Okay. And I understand the context of everything through this Art of War strategy very clear.
That strategy he used.
Very clear. Very clear. They dropped the ball in the Reconstruction era, especially right there where I told you, 1877, because for 95 years after that, when that happened, this is what happened, bro. The 5 military districts were Union war generals who led a particular district. Withdraw them out, and now was the birth of Jim Crow, second Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Salute to President Grant, who, you look this shit up, the Department of Justice, which is the FBI's headquarters, basically their boss or their department, was created with one sole purpose in the beginning: to dismantle the Ku Klux Klan.
That's a fact.
Under President Ulysses Grant, the war general.
That's a fact.
They dismantled the Klan. He put in a prosecutor named Amos T. Ackerman, who, you got to watch Spirit, who was a Confederate at the time of the war, but after the war had a change of heart.
Right.
And worked with Grant and started prosecuting the Ku Klux Klan and putting niggas in as the juries, as the jurors to weigh in and say you guilty. Totally dismantled the first Klan. This is why you see it's the first Klan and the second Klan. Because the first Klan got dismantled under the Grant administration. Okay? Right. Facts. All right? So we got to take a look at that era. United States drops the ball right there. United States of America still has a member state called Mississippi.
Well, the Union.
Mm-hmm. The Union dropped the ball. Without a shadow of a doubt.
And the reason I'm saying that is because, and this goes for the other side too. It's like when T.I. was speaking, people usually speak in these totalitarian type of dialogues. They just lump everybody in together, right? Mm-hmm. And they find it difficult when speaking to be specific enough to maybe even name names, or name specific situations, right? And so then they say stuff like they'll say white supremacy or white people, and then that's such a blanket term, right?
Right.
And so what happens is if you're not wise enough, you find it difficult to be able to, siphon through all those that fog to be okay. Well, who exactly are these people, right?
Right.
And so we need to be more careful how we're communicating these ideas,
right, and
being more detailed in them.
Yeah,
because then that gives people real targets to look at. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Versus because Killer Mike has to go on the record to say I'm proud to be an American, and making these John Brown comparisons for one reason and one reason only, because he understands that all white people are not in the white supremacy dialogue.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So he has to insert that there to appease that particular portion of white America, right? Who's not with the shit, right?
That's right.
He has to do that. So we have to be careful. I'm going to show you how easy it is. Like, because when you start talking, it's all white people, right? You get the fanaticals and the radical people that start talking like that.
Yeah.
You can't differentiate between, who's who. Mm-hmm. But we do it all the time in the ghettos of America. It's called the vice lords against the disciples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? They look exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Black people, right? But they gang banging. Mm-hmm. They represent two different sets. Mm-hmm. But they all the same color, phenotype, all that. They look like the same people to me.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So we have to be able to be conscientious enough to say, okay, who's exhibiting Confederate behavior?
That's right.
Right?
Right.
And in your 10-point plan, right, questions need to be asked to senators, to congressmen, to, judges, to police chiefs.
Yeah.
Are you, and lay out scenarios. What are you for? What are you against? Mm-hmm. Because then when things don't necessarily go the way that people agree to on paper, right? Now you have a legitimate reason to call people out, and you can pull the sheets off them there because now it's funny business.
That's right. It's Confederate behavior.
It's Confederate behavior masquerade, and I've said this many times. Confederate behavior masquerading as Union soldiers.
That's right.
This is what we have in government. So these police unions, these cops go out here because this is the issue, and this is what Tip said. He said he was talking to Candace in the Revolt panel conversation. And he said, I really want to like you. Mm-hmm. because you're very intelligent, so I really want to like you, right? But he says, but how can I even get to these other points that you're making that are very valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
If these people are still killing innocent black people, and
Trump is when he was a racist,
and so I understand where Tip is coming from in that regard, because that is where we can clearly see that it's a problem
about Confederate behavior.
So it needs to start there with the police force.
Right. So what you do is, because Trump is all about the art of the deal. That's his thing, right? So what you do is you draft up legislation that says, hey, if your body cam is not on and somebody dies in your custody where body cam should have been on, you as a police officer, since you're a public servant, you waive your right to a trial and you will automatically go to prison for life because a life was taken. Now, if we see on body cam that this person, such as Eric Gardner, should not have been choked and was not resisting arrest for him to have lost his life, and there was no threat through resisting, you go to prison for life. There ain't no trial.
That's right.
To be a police officer, the mandate is somebody lose their life and there was no proof of resistance, you are going to prison for life automatically. That's what you signed up for.
And the judges who make rulings where if a regular civilian commits an equal crime that a police officer may have committed, and the regular civilian gets 20 years, but the cop gets probation, right?
That's right.
That's a Confederate judge.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And see, we have to be able to call, okay, what's the judge name? This because see, that gets lost. Because all people hear is that you read the clickbait, cop only gets 2 years, right? Or cop gets probation. And so that we get mad at the result, but we like, okay, well, who's the judge?
He gets off scot clean.
Yeah, like we never.
You don't know him. You never know him.
Points. And the media doesn't like these celebrities. They're not talking about like, okay, well, who was the judge that made that decision? Right? Let's put the focus on that judge to see, okay, what's that judge's track record?
That's right.
Oh, okay, you a Confederate?
That's right.
And see, this is where you have to play your Union card, your Union soldier card, because this is what got to happen, y'all. People are going to have to show you who they are when you apply pressure. So either you're going to pass legislation, and that's how we know that you're truly a Union soldier.
That's right. Are you going to vote nay?
Or you're going to vote nay. And now we know that you are a Confederate.
And if you abstain, that means you ain't with it and you just didn't have the balls to say it.
That's correct.
And then and abstaining is a nay.
That's right.
Because it should be a yay.
So which inevitably is going to lead us to a final destination.
That's right.
Because we can't keep pandering in between. And maybe this is why we do it, because we're afraid of what that end result really is. Because maybe it's more Confederate behavior than we would like to admit. And if it is more Confederate behavior in these places of government and office, right, and policy making, if it is really more Confederate masquerading going on there, then what does that mean when we take the sheets off them and we're able to look directly at them? That means it's going to have to be something physical.
That's right.
It's going to have to happen at that point. Because these are the people who are making the laws. These are the people who are adjudicating. Right? Because see, right now it's still a cloak because nobody's put the pressure to them to say, right, this scenario unfolds, what do you do?
That's right.
What do you do? How do you vote? What do you say?
That's right.
Right? So it's still kind of fuzzy. But boy, the moment you start asking these people who are on state level these questions, and then they don't fall through, right? And this is just not for one person. This is for all the people that you're electing, because then there's not an excuse. Well, it's too many Democrats and they're not voting this way, and there's too many Republicans, they're not voting that way, so we can't get the bill passed, right? So the moment you start asking people just straight up honest questions, right, then there's no excuse at that point whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
That's right.
Right? Either because we need to switch the language from Democrat Republican to Confederate Union. That's how it needs to be framed.
That's what it was about back then. Confederate or Union. And so, Mr. President Trump, it appears that a former Confederate state who was number 2 to leave the United States, or try to secede and leave the United States, Mississippi, in their state flag to this day, upper left-hand corner is the Confederate flag. Now, I have a question. That's a battle flag. And I totally get, and listen, trust me, trust us when we tell you we done been to Stone Mountain, home to the second Ku Klux Klan when they found it, home to General Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and President of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, who's edged in stone on Stone Mountain. That's right. We done went there on several occasions and put in a whole different type of work and can show you the receipts of show and prove that we know what we're talking about and what we're dealing with on a whole nother level. Now,
which Noble, I won't take that lightly. Y'all gonna find out that level that he just mentioned is the final destination.
Oh yeah, if they think they going Confederate.
That's right.
But they ain't going Confederate. This country is not going Confederate. This country is not going Confederate. It's already been sealed. Abe Lincoln had already sealed it and told you that this peace shall last forever, eternity. So this Confederate state, Mississippi, and although I think you can have a memorial, it's fine, it's understandable. You can have a memorial, but no level of government is going to fly a Confederate flag. No level, municipal, county, city, state, fed, no level of government is flying a Confederate flag. You can have a memorial, but you will not at a place of law, whether it be judicial, which is interpretation, because we got an issue here about something, whether it be legislative, where we make the laws and write the laws, or whether it be executive, police, where we enforce the laws. No, there's absolutely no Confederate flag on any level of government, because that government has proven to be an enemy combatant to the United States of America. So when we see a government, Mississippi, fly the Confederate flag, if they don't clear that up, like, hey, we was doing that as a memorial, but when you right, we taking that shit down, then you are really saying this is like gangs, man. You throwing up that flag? Oh, okay, then it's Civil War time.
That's right.
That's what you're saying. Killer Mike, I would say, because his directive is, hey, know your local, your local Congress people. Get but not only that, get a bill going. Get a bill that's gonna go to the House. And in this bill, address some things. What happens in the case of police brutality to them? They waive their right to a free trial. What happens to the judge when he adjudicates in such
clearly
a Rodney King matter? Not guilty. How the fuck ain't you not guilty and y'all beat the fucking snot out of Rodney King?
That's
not
right.
Guilty? How? How is that even possible?
That's right.
I mean, they beat the brakes off of Rodney King, bro.
That's right.
Not guilty. But see, that's the shit that we talk about, especially the tips of the world like to see. That's that white supremacy shit. That's that problem. And he's absolutely 100% correct. That's a problem. But you got to introduce a bill. My last thing, in a sense, is I didn't get the sister's name, but when watching it, she was on the far left and watching it. She mentioned, and nobody caught it.
Which one? The one that was working with the Trump administration?
Not that one.
Your name was Tamika, the one you talking about.
Yeah, the brown skin one, not the light skin sister with Trump. I rocks with, who is Tamika?
Tamika was the one that you're mentioning now.
Oh, okay.
Young lady name I think was Katrina.
Okay. I rocks. Katrina was hitting the ass with some facts, Jack. She mentioned 3/5, like the same government 3/5, but somebody else was talking. I think Candace was talking, and she said it. And I'm like, there it is again. It never fails, bro. It never fails. If you want to talk about the 3/5 clause in the Constitution, it's not, because she said like 3/5 of a human being. That's bullshit, bro. And that's what I'm talking about. See that right there? That disqualifies you. Because you have a perception that the government created a constitution that says we see you as 3/5 of a human being. And that's simply not true. I'll say it again. When you really understand what had happened, 3/5, counting 3 out of every 5 slaves, their vote, it shrank the white slave masters' representation in Congress. This is an art of war strategy. 3/5 actually helped niggas.
That's right.
It didn't hurt them. Yeah, they think it is a moral perception that white people view them as less of a human being. But in fact, it has nothing to do with the value of a human being. It is simply saying, no. They not people? No. Hell no, they ain't people. They are slaves. They property. Okay, we'll pay 100% tax on the property. No. They people. They people, then let them vote. No. Okay, I tell you what. The compromise is, out of 5 slaves, we allow you to count 3 of them on your census so you can send your Congress people up here. Which means the other 40% that's not being counted, they could have had way more representatives in Congress with that ideology to have you as a slave. 3/5 is a clever ass rule to shrink Southern representation in Congress, man.
That's right.
And they miss the point every single time, which means you got to pay attention to how you missed it. How the fuck did you miss that? Because we're parroting information from a place of trauma. Anytime you talk about civil rights, that era, slavery, the image pops up. Rodney King reinforces the image historically. The German shepherds and the water hoses and shit. The image pops up in pictures. They always tell you is worth 1,000 words. And the image of the timeline
triggers the trauma
and overrides analytical, factual information, which makes the facts null and void, which you will hear, like Candace will say, how do you boo a fact? What's wrong with you? Because the subject matter is producing the image in the mind, and the image of the mind has nothing to do with the region of the brain that analyzes factual information.
In fact, when you see those images or your narrative is surrounding that time where that actual real motion picture was taking place, the part of the brain that's able to problem solve, you have a little structure down in your limbic brain called the hippocampus. it starts to shrink. Trauma shrinks the structure that is very indicative for creativity and problem solving.
That's right.
And what happens is every time somebody says something, like she says, the word racism, you triggered.
That's right.
Slavery, you triggered. White supremacy, you triggered, right? Automatically, the frontal lobes just shut down.
That's the center of the brain that's responsible for processing data
and planning
goes to sleep.
It just goes bye-bye. And listen, these are neurological facts, ladies and gentlemen, which really needs to be implemented in these dialogues because it is imperative.
That's right.
If we're going to have real solutions, just people talking. Because see,
that's right.
Them cameras get cut on, and then everybody's lobbying for attention and to have the best, punchline and phrase. You know what I'm saying? But if we really going to talk about progression, then we're going to have to fuse in elements of psychology and neuroscience.
That's right.
To get the best
holistic. That's right.
For success.
That's right. That's right.
So, just like Candace, she was sitting there and she started to talk about immigration, which were facts that she was stating. And then Tip started shrugging, right? That electrical energy and Olympic brain wouldn't let him sit still. Start shrugging and, everything.
Shaking his head, no. That's right. Right?
And she asked him, like, what are you shrugging for? Like, what you know what I mean? Because while she was even, and here's another fact, and I'm speaking specifically to Black people here. We have to be careful allowing emotional talking points to guide us. Because I heard Tip say a couple times, well, that's just how I feel. Now that's okay, because we all are human beings. We're going to feel. But if what you're feeling is not running parallel to a fact concerning the matter in which you're quote unquote feeling about, then there is some adjustments that have to be made in your psychology.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
I term this, I call it logical abuse. Just like people that coin the term emotional abuse, I call this logical abuse. So Tip, that's my man. Love him to death. Right?
All day.
One of my favorite MCs.
Oh, listen.
But he was committing a bunch of logical abuse on the stage. Right? Because she started to spew facts about different subject matter in relationship to what should our talking points be, because that was the specific question.
Right. Right.
What's our agenda? What are we asking for? And then she started talking. She said, nobody's talking about the little boys in Baltimore who couldn't pass a reading and math test. Zero.
Right.
That's not on talking. That's not a talking point. She said that 74% of African-American women are at home without fathers to their children. Why isn't that a major talking point? Right?
Right.
Because the truth of the matter is that's impacting our day-to-day experience in America more than cop killings are.
That's right.
Because as my partner Noble Anpu has already laid the facts out, less than like 0.6%.
Yeah, man.
It's not even one Black person a day that dies from the hands of the police.
That's right.
It's less than a person.
That's right.
Right? But meanwhile, we got 74% of Black families not together, and all of the case studies show the tarnishment, both emotionally, right, psychologically, all these different things that are happening to little Black boys and little Black girls because of the separation of family in the home.
Right. Which
go on to produce criminals, low self-esteem individuals, poverty-stricken individuals, right? These are subject matters that are having far more impact than the cop killings are, but because of the way the news portrays, and here's the litmus test. And since Anpu put me to this, everywhere I go or I talk, I'm using it. Name one white person
Just one.
First and last name who got killed by the police this year. Without using Google.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Let's name one. And if you're tugging against this data, your first response will probably be because it's not happening to them like that. That's incorrect too.
Right.
At least one of them die every day. Caucasian race people, one of them die every day by the hands of the police. Higher percentage than black people.
That's right.
That's a fact.
That's right.
And I know the study people go, well, black people are more likely. We're not talking about likely. So you got to pay attention to language. They're more likely to.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about physical stats.
Right.
Not likely stats. Physical stats that show this is how many white people died last year by the hands of the police. This is how many black people died last year by the hands of the police.
Right.
Right?
Right.
If you can't name one white person first and last name, then that means the media, it has failed you and they're intentionally not reporting it.
Mm-hmm.
And that has psychological ramifications as well that needs to be discussed. That could be on the 10-point plan too.
Yeah.
Who the hell is running the media? And why are these images constantly being bombarded into the psychology?
We never ever hear white people being killed by the police. And it happens.
And it happens every day.
Every day.
See?
Every day.
But that's where we start to get into the neuroscience, and that's a different conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, look, we're going to have to bunker down and really study these facts, right? Because as she said, if a people know what you're afraid of, they can control you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this means even if I'm telling a lie, if I know that what I'm speaking to you about is pulling on your emotional string, whether I'm lying or telling the truth doesn't even matter.
That's right.
I can get you to respond according to previous history in relationship to the subject matter.
Right. Right.
But the moment we start to remove that and say, okay, wait a minute, let me examine this fight or flight. Is it really necessary, or do I really have time here to decipher what's being said to me before responding and actually going to get the math on it, the studies on it, so that I can be well informed with my opinion when I'm beginning to talk? Or am I going to make matters worse because I have a bigger voice in the world of pop culture, black culture, whatever, and now millions of people are listening to your dialogue and your rhetoric, and here they come doing the same parroting that my partner just mentioned about the 3/5, even though that's not the case.
Not the case.
And so you got generations and people coming saying the same thing over and over and over again. And when somebody like Candace Owens comes in the room, or even myself, Minister Ju, when I'm speaking, dropping facts, like I've had people, they say, Ju, are you with the boule?
Yeah.
Listen, they get so uptight because they can't refute the fact of the matter that I'm a boule initiate, or I'm with the Illuminati now.
Right.
You see what happens?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, man, shout out to everybody on the panel, man. Y'all did an excellent job.
Stirring up the conversation.
Right. Start up the conversation. And this was just our analysis and commentary on it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, when one of the people on the panel hear this, hey, man, take the data, use it.
Yeah.
Man. And listen, on another note, and I know y'all be seeing it, we are the authors and the creators of hip hop astrology.
Yeah.
I done tagged Tip multiple times. Yeah. I might even tag Killer Mike once or twice or something.
Yeah.
Right? So we here, and we got another level of intellect and science that we all can use, man, in order to really change the game down here.
Yeah. I mean, you can't say just thinking is powerful, thinking into existence.
Right.
Okay. Well, can we collectively think about something and that thought manifest itself somehow that make it appear as some type of random event?
Good question.
That's a question. That's a question. You know? But yeah, man, that's where we at, man. That's where we on. You know what I mean? Great convo.
So where they can find us, man? Hip Hop Astrology on Twitter, Urban Guru on Twitter, Hip Hop Astrology TV on YouTube, The Imagination Guru on YouTube. That's where you can find us. You can hit us up 877-345-3797. That's the business line. It's always open, man. And we here for the people, man.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't do this. Like, our background is, we take people on trips and we do, anything dealing with you would call spirituality. I mean, we got it. You know what I mean? Like literally the astrology portion, we got information on that. We wrote a book. You know what I mean? We got that, and we just also scaled into the Prosperity Investment Group. So it's another side of ours where we invested in real estate, and we own houses in these urban opportunity zones. You know what I mean? Flipping deals, selling houses throughout the Midwest and whatnot. And getting to this bag, and it's abundance out here. You know what I'm saying? There's some things that need to be tweaked for sure, but I'm gonna definitely have to just ride on that vibe. Killer Mike said, man, I'm proud to be an American. This is a great time, and without a shadow of a doubt, there is some things to do to make this place better. We all should just do our part. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, man, take this information back. You know what I mean? And let's see what that plan is. You know what I'm saying? And my final takeaway would be, man, if anything, like I'm big on that 3/5 shit. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm a Civil War advocate, but it started before the 3/5 is before the Civil War. 3/5 is that's the American Revolutionary War after the United States was finished with that battle and decided to form the country. That's why it's in the Constitution. So the Constitution, 1787, that's before that. I want y'all to know that in 1787, at the founding of this country, the Constitutional Convention held in Philadelphia, known as the Philadelphia Convention, there was something called the Northwest Ordinance that same year, 1787. This country is founding itself as a new country. We need some rules. What we gonna do? How we gonna exist? Called the Constitution. And that same year, at the same time, before they was getting them rules together, as they were getting the rules together, they said, listen, the Northwest Ordinance, man, up in Chicago, you know what I'm saying, home of the Sox, up in Ohio, hometown of John Brown, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, you know what I mean? It ain't gonna be no slaves allowed in that territory. It's 1787, the founding of the Constitutional Convention, man. Like, it ain't gonna be no slaves in that territory. You know what I'm saying? And so we represent that north side, that Union side for real. You see the hats, you know what I mean? Like, this is real shit. You know what I mean? Like there's a different, like, if you notice, like, Killer Mike was talking about, I'm from the South where people need a job, right? You know what I mean? Coming, like the Northerners got a certain perspective on this shit from the nigga side. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That and it's only a few, as it was with the Republican Party that started in 1854 with the idea of going against the status quo, and that actually won. The underdog won. You understand what I'm saying? The information that we telling you, man, take this shit. 1787, there was no Northwest Ordinance. The real NWO, New World Order, is the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. No slaves above this shit. Go look at the Missouri Compromise. No slaves above 36 degrees latitude north, nigga. Like, no slaves allowed. Oh, Missouri, you want to be a slave state? I tell you what, Maine, you're going to come in the United States and you're going to be a free state. This was chess. Like, somebody was making some powerful fucking moves. Real shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is real like that. You know what I mean? And you got to learn how to pick the side of John Brown. So that's why I'm rolling with Killer Mike on this one. All right? Get at us, man. Got anything, bro? That's it.
Oh, man, we good, man.
That's what it is, man. Till the next time. Peace.